Hi students, this is Miss Lizon and welcome to our very first lecture in Organic Chemistry class. For lesson 1, we're going to discuss about the introduction to organic chemistry and atomic structure. Without further ado, let me present the specific learning outcomes in today's lesson. Number 1, define organic chemistry. 2, describe the characteristics of organic compounds. 3, explain why carbon is a special element in organic chemistry. 4, describe the structure of an atom. 5, compute the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons of an atom. 6, draw the orbital shells of a given atom. And lastly, 7, write the ground state electron configuration by applying Aufbau principle, Pauli exclusion principle, and the Hans rule. Before I go over lesson 1, let me present the prompting questions first. What are examples of organic compounds? What are hydrocarbons? Why is it important to review atomic structure? And how do you write the ground state electron configuration of an atom? As you study and go over lesson 1, you'll know the answers to these questions. Now, what are you waiting for? Let's go and learn something new. First and foremost, what is organic chemistry? Organic chemistry is the study of carbon-containing compound. Okay? Don't forget that. It is the study of carbon-containing compound. Carbon and hydrogen are the two most common elements in organic compounds, but they can also have a lot of other elements like nitrogen, oxygen, halogens, phosphorus, silicon, and sulfur. Now, what are organic compounds? Organic compounds are any of a large class of chemical compounds in which one or more atoms of carbon are covalently linked to atoms of other elements, most commonly hydrogen, oxygen, or nitrogen. The few carbon-containing compounds that are not classified as organic includes carbides, carbonates, and cyanide. I repeat, although organic compounds, or the compounds that we are going to study on organic chemistry, contains carbon, not all compounds that contains carbon are organic. Okay? Not all carbon-containing compounds are organic. So what are the examples of those compounds that contains carbon but are not considered as organic? Okay? They are carbides, carbonates, and cyanides. They are not organic even if they contain carbon. Okay? So please take note of that. Additionally, organic chemistry is a specialized field of chemistry that gets its name from the fact that most of the known carbon compounds in the 19th century were thought to have originated in living organisms. Therefore, in conclusion, organic compounds are derived from or originated from living organisms. Okay, so let's move on. It has been mentioned on the previous slide that organic compounds contain carbon and hydrogen. Now, since our organic compounds mostly contain carbon and hydrogen, we call them hydrocarbons. And the simplest hydrocarbon compounds are called alkenes, alkanes, and alkynes. I repeat, alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. They are the most simple hydrocarbons in organic chemistry, or the simplest hydrocarbons rather. So hydrocarbons, these are the compounds made of only carbon and hydrogen, and compounds made of carbon that also have other elements like oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, and the halogens. So what are the halogens? Okay, we have fluorine, chlorine, okay, what else? Bromine, and iodine. So do not forget, I hope you still recall your halogen family in our enhancement chemistry class. Okay? Now, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen are the major components of most organic compounds. Consequently, our understanding of organic chemistry must have as a foundation an appreciation of the electronic structure and properties of this element. And that is why later on we have to review our learnings about the atomic structure and how to write the ground state electron of an atom. Oh, by the way, let me just present you this one. These are methane. Okay, methane is an alkane. Ethene, it is an alkene. Ethine, it is an alkyne. Okay, so what have you observed? Look at their bonds. In methane, it only contains a single bond. That's why it belongs to the alkane group. For the ethene, it contains the double bond. So that is why it belongs to the alkene group. And look at the ethine. Ethine contains triple bond, and that is why it belongs to the alkyne group. Therefore, alkane groups are hydrocarbons containing only single bonds, while the alkene group are the hydrocarbons that contains double bonds. And lastly, the alkyne groups are the hydrocarbons that contains triple bond. Okay, so for the single bonds, we're going to use the suffix "ane." For the double bond, you're going to use the suffix "in" or "ene." And lastly, for the triple bonds, you're going to use the suffix "ine" or "yne." Or alkane, single bonds; alkene, double bonds; alkyne, triple bonds. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now let us proceed to the next. Biomolecules. What is a biomolecule? Okay, biomolecule is called biological molecule, or the molecules inside a human body or animal body. Okay, so that is why it is called biomolecule, biological molecule. And sometimes they are also referred to as macromolecule. What is macromolecule? So from the word macro means large. Okay, they are called macromolecules because these molecules are large molecules. Biomolecule, by the way, is any of numerous substances that are produced by cells and living organisms. Okay, did you get that? They are substances that are produced by cells and living organisms. So, biomolecules have a wide range of sizes and structures and perform a vast array of functions. The four types of biomolecules are carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. Later on, we're also going to enhance the discussion about biomolecules when you take biochemistry courses. Alright, so biomolecules such as carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids are all organic compounds. Why? Because I have mentioned that these molecules are produced by cells and living organisms. And on the previous slides, I have mentioned that organic compounds originated in living organisms. So that is why biomolecules is considered as organic compounds. Okay? And these are very essential for human function. These biomolecules are classified as organic compounds because they include both carbon and hydrogen in their molecules. Okay, so let us enumerate the characteristics of organic compounds. First, all organic compounds contain carbon, okay? All organic compounds contain carbon, but do not forget, not all carbon-containing compounds are organic, okay? Do not forget, not all organic compounds contains, not all carbon-containing compounds are categorized as organic. So what are my examples before? I have mentioned carbides, carbonates, and cyanides. Although they contain carbon in their compounds, they are not considered as organic compound because they are not derived from living organisms. Okay, I hope you get that. And number two, most of them are flammable. Okay, for example, methane. Let's go back to that. Methane with a chemical formula of CH4. Methane is actually flammable. And all hydrocarbons are actually flammable, such as butane. You are familiar with the butane gas, right? So butane is flammable because it is a hydrocarbon. And three, they are all soluble in non-polar solvents. 4, they are most, if not all, are covalently bonded molecules. What do you mean by covalently bonded? Okay, so covalent bond is a type of bond where atoms share electrons, and thus, because of the sharing of electrons, they form bonds. Okay, they can form single bonds, they can form double bonds, or triple bonds. So remember, they are most, or if not all, are covalently bonded. Okay, covalently bonded, they are sharing electrons to form bonds. Okay, later on in lesson 2, we are also going to tackle about chemical bonding. Okay, don't worry about that. So I am just giving you an overview about the characteristics of organic compounds. So please remember, organic compounds are covalently bonded molecules. Okay, so we also have an example here in our picture. Organic compounds contain carbon, usually bonded to hydrogen. So an example of organic compounds, we have here DNA, sugar, okay, sugar or the table sugar, that is sucrose. So sucrose is, what is the sucrose? It is a monosaccharide. It is a simple sugar. And we also have methane, which is your simplest hydrocarbon or the simplest alkane, and also have ethanol. Okay, ethanol is a hydrocarbon with the presence of functional group alcohol. Okay, what makes carbon special? Okay, carbon is special because it can attach to 4 other atoms and can do so in many different ways, from rings to chains to double or even triple bonds. Okay, this results in many types of organic molecules. So let me just show you that one. So if you will look at here, okay, carbon is a tetrahedral atom. Why? Because it always forms 4 bonds. Okay, carbon always forms 4 bonds. I'm sorry, I messed up with the illustration. So let me repeat that. Okay, carbon always forms 4 bonds. So that's why it is special. And in order to reach stability, atoms like to have 8 valence electrons. So I tend to share, or so the atoms or the carbon atom tend to share 4 other electrons with another atom, which gives 8 electrons in total. So the carbon atoms bond attach to other atoms through covalent bonding. Okay, so just please read the description why carbon is a special element in organic chemistry. But in highlight, carbon is special because it always forms 4 single bonds. Okay, and later on, we're also going to tackle about how to get the valence electron, how the covalent bonds are formed in lesson 2. In addition to bonding with 4 different atoms at once, the carbon is special because of the way it can bond. So it can form simple bonds and make something like methane. Okay, so like I said, methane is the simplest hydrocarbon. So this is the very first and easiest representation why carbon always form 4 bonds. So carbon, okay, has a valence electron of 4, or its outermost electron is 4. And because of that outermost electron, it can attach to atoms, okay, in order to share electrons. So in this case, hydrogen, or 4 hydrogen atoms, okay, 4 hydrogen atoms, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 hydrogen atoms is sharing electron with the central carbon atom. Okay, and sometimes not only that, carbon can also make complicated molecules by bonding with other carbon and forming a chain. So look at this one. Let me zoom in. Okay, so the black balls you have there. Oh. The black balls you have there in our model, each represents the carbon chain. So it is a carbon, 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 and carbon. Okay, So it can make a long carbon chain. Okay, and not only it forms long carbon chains, but it can also form rings with double or triple bond. Okay, so in this case we have an example of benzene ring. And then of course we have here the alkane, alkene, and alkyne. So like I said, these are hydrocarbons and they are made up of carbon and hydrogen. Okay, what is methane? Methane is the main component of natural gas. That is why we have mentioned earlier that hydrocarbons are flammable. Okay, especially methane because it is a natural gas and it is one of the most powerful and important gases. Methane is composed of carbon and hydrogen. Okay, is what you have seen earlier. Okay, methane is composed of one carbon atom and 4 atoms of hydrogen, thus giving the chemical formula CH4. Okay, and methane is produced over time through biological routes. Methane is colorless, odorless, and non-toxic. However, it has the potential to be very dangerous if a person experiences exposure to large quantities for significant periods of time. Okay, so let us look at our periodic table. Figure 1.1, the position of carbon in the periodic table. Okay, so where is carbon? Carbon is located here. Okay, it is located under the group 4A. Okay, other elements commonly found in organic compounds are shown in colors, typically used to represent them. So the colored elements here. Okay, look at that one. The colored elements like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. These are the common elements that in where the carbon are bonded to. So carbon can bond to hydrogen, right? So it can bond to hydrogen, but carbon can also form a bond with nitrogen, or it can also form a bond with phosphorus, oxygen, sulfur, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Okay, so let us proceed to the atomic structure. Atom is the smallest unit of matter that retains the identity of the substance. Okay, you have learned in your general chemistry that atom is the smallest unit of matter. And these atoms are made of smaller particles, or we call them the subatomic particles. Okay, and we call them electrons, protons, and neutrons. Atoms are composed of 2 regions. The first one is nucleus. Okay, look at the image below. The nucleus is the center of the atom that contains the mass of the atom. And letter B, the electron cloud. That is the region that surrounds the nucleus and contains most of the space in the atom. Okay? By the way, the nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons. Okay, remember? The nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons, while the electron cloud region, from the word electron cloud itself, so you'll understand that it is the region where the electrons are contained. Electrons and protons have a property called electric charge, which affects the way they interact with each other and with other electrically charged particles. Okay? So the structure of an atom, we have the positively charged nucleus. Why is the nucleus positively charged? Because it contains protons and neutrons. And if you have recalled in our discussion in general chemistry rather, or enhancement chemistry, atoms that contains the subatomic particle protons or neutron is neutrally charged or no charge at all, while proton is a subatomic particle that contains positively charged. So a positively charged proton plus a neutrally charged neutron, okay, of course that will make the nucleus positively charged as well. And the negatively charged electrons are in the cloud, okay. Of course, we already know that electrons are subatomic particles with negative charge. So it is likely a appropriate to say that the electron cloud region is negatively charged as well. Okay, the atomic number is represented by the symbol capital letter Z. Okay, so please remember that one. And the mass number is represented by the symbol capital letter A. So capital letter Z, letter Z, it is the atomic number, while the capital letter A, it is a symbol for mass number. So Z for atomic number, A for the mass number. Atomic number is the number of protons in atom's nucleus. Okay, atomic number is equal to the number of protons in the atom's nucleus. The mass number is the number of protons plus neutrons. Okay, so the number of protons plus neutrons. Now, we're going to conclude that the nucleus of atom is actually containing the atomic weight or the mass number of an atom. Okay, because it is composed of protons and neutrons, and it has been mentioned here that the mass number is the number of protons plus neutrons. Okay, so mass number. And another term for that is nucleons. Okay, nucleons is equal to protons plus neutrons. All the atoms of a given element have the same atomic number. For example, we have atomic number 1, hydrogen, and that also means hydrogen has protons that only contains one, so only one proton. Then the next one we have He or helium, atomic number 2. So the atomic number is 2, and therefore the proton number is also 2. Next, we have the isotopes. Isotopes are atoms of the same element that have different numbers of neutrons and therefore different mass numbers. Okay, so isotopes, okay, are atoms of the same element. Okay, remember that one. These are atoms of the same element, like atoms of carbon. Okay, atoms of carbon, they belong to the same element, which is carbon. However, these atoms or these carbon atoms have different number of neutrons, and we are going to call them isotopes. Okay, I hope you get that. I will repeat. For example, we have carbon atoms, and these carbon atoms belong to the same element, which is carbon, but these carbon atoms have different numbers of neutrons. Okay, and therefore they also have different mass numbers, so we are going to call them carbon isotopes or isotopes in general if we're going to speak for all of the elements that have different numbers of neutrons and different mass numbers. Okay, for the atomic mass or for the atomic weight of an element, it is the weighted average mass and atomic mass units of an element's naturally occurring isotopes. In addition, isotopes are atoms that have the same number of protons but have different numbers of neutrons. Say, for example, we have 3 atoms of hydrogen. But what have you observed? The first hydrogen is called the protium. The second hydrogen is deuterium. And the third hydrogen is called the tritium. Why? They belong to the same element, but what makes them different? Okay? These 3 hydrogen atoms are isotopes of the hydrogen element. Okay? So in protium, there is no presence of neutron. Okay? Look at this one. Okay? That positively charged circle there is your proton. And this one, the very small subatomic particle with negative charge, that is your electron. But can you see the presence of neutron? No. Okay? Because the protium has no presence of neutron. But look at deuterium. Okay, what have you observed? There is a presence of proton, there is a presence of electron, and there is also a presence of neutron. And remember, neutrons have no charge. That's why you cannot see any charge, whether it is positive or negative, because neutrons have no charge. Okay, so look at that one. Protium, there is no presence of neutrons, whereas in deuterium we have 1 neutron. And the last one in tritium. Look at that one, class. Okay, there is a presence of proton. There is also a presence of electron. And how many neutrons did you see? There are 2 neutrons. Okay, with the 2 green, light green colored subatomic particles. That is the neutron. So in protium, there is no presence of neutron, while in the deuterium, there is at least 1 presence of neutron. And lastly, in tritium, there is at least 2 presence of neutrons. Okay? Did you see that? Although these 3 hydrogen atoms belong to the same hydrogen element, but because they have different numbers of neutrons, so you call them the isotopes of hydrogen. I hope this makes it clear. Okay, in an atom, the protons is equivalent to the number of electrons. Okay, please remember that one. In an atom, the protons is equivalent to the number of electrons. If 20 protons are present in an atom, then 20 electrons are there to balance the overall charge of the atom. But this is only true to neutral atoms. Okay? So the neutrons have no charge. Like I said, the neutrons have no charge at all, or they are neutrally charged. Therefore, they do not have to equal the number of protons or electrons. But usually protons is always equal to electrons. But these are only true for neutral atoms. But since neutrons have no charge at all, okay, they do not have to equal the number of protons or electrons. Okay, atomic number, once again, this number indicates the number of protons in an atom. For example, hydrogen's atomic number is 1. So therefore, the hydrogen has 1 proton. Okay, 1 proton because it indicates, okay, the atomic number indicates the number of protons in the atom. And we have next example, carbon. So the atomic number of carbon is 6. So we have 6 protons as well. Okay, then the number of protons identifies the atom. For example, we have, if we say 2 protons, okay, 2 protons, then we are going to point that this refers to the element helium or He. Why? Because He has the atomic number of 2. Now, if you are going to identify the element with 29 protons, okay, then the answer is copper, because this refers to copper containing the atomic number 29. Okay, copper has the atomic number 29, therefore it also have 29 protons.